The Vraxian war fleet descended through Earth's atmosphere like falling stars, their plasma cannons already charging for the harvest. Commander Zekthor had ignored the Oracle's warning, dismissing it as superstitious nonsense from a dying civilization. After all, the Vraxians had conquered 47 worlds in the past century alone. What threat could one more primitive planet possibly pose? Aurora James was replacing a solar panel on her family's farm in Kansas when the ships appeared. She watched the gleaming vessels tear through the clouds, her wrench still clutched in oil-stained hands. For a moment she simply stared, processing what her eyes were telling her brain. Then the first energy beam struck the neighboring town and instinct took over. She ran. The Vraxian ground forces expected terror. They expected submission. What they found instead was something their extensive military database had no protocol for. Organized resistance from a species that refused to acknowledge it was outmatched. Within hours, Aurora had gathered 12 neighbors in the storm shelter beneath her barn. Among them were a retired Marine, a high school chemistry teacher, a veterinarian, and a teenager who spent too much time playing tactical video games. It was hardly an army, but it was what they had. "They're scanning for population centers," Aurora explained, sketching crude diagrams in the dirt floor. "Small groups like us don't register as threats. That's our advantage." The Marine, a grizzled man named Patterson, nodded approvingly. "Asymmetric warfare. They'll learn to regret overlooking us." The Vraxians learned quickly, but not quickly enough. The first hunting party that ventured near the James farm disappeared without sending a distress signal. Commander Zekthor reviewed the scanner logs with growing unease. The patrol's life signs had simply stopped. No battle detected, no weapons fire recorded. Just silence. He sent a larger force. Aurora watched them approach through binoculars, counting heads and cataloging weapons. The Vraxians were impressive, nearly 7 feet tall, armored in adaptive shielding, carrying energy weapons that could vaporize concrete. But they moved in predictable patterns, assuming superiority rather than earning it. "Remember," she whispered into the radio, "we don't fight them head-on. We're the storm. We're everywhere and nowhere." The chemistry teacher's homemade explosives detonated first, collapsing an old irrigation tunnel and cutting the patrol in half. Then came the crossfire from positions the Vraxians hadn't detected. Humans had been hunting on this land for generations, and they knew every hollow, every ridge, every line of sight. The battle lasted 4 minutes. When the dust settled, not a single Vraxian walked away. News spread through the human resistance networks like wildfire. If a small group in Kansas could take down Vraxian warriors, maybe they all could. The invaders had expected a quick harvest. Instead, they got Vietnam, Afghanistan, and every guerrilla war in human history rolled into one planetary nightmare. Commander Zekthor finally accessed the Oracle's full warning. His translation matrix struggled with the archaic phrasing, but the message was clear. They are not strong because of their weapons. They are strong because they do not know when to quit. They are not fearsome because of their size. They are fearsome because they fight for their home. Do not wake the two-legged storm. Do not give them reason to show you what desperation breeds. 3 months into the occupation, the Vraxian fleet had lost 30% of its ground forces. They controlled no territory beyond their landing zones. Every supply convoy became a target. Every scout patrol vanished into woods and cities and deserts, picked apart by a species that treated warfare like a blood sport, and survival like a religion. Aurora James had become something of a legend, though she would have hated knowing it. She didn't feel legendary, she felt tired, scared, and determined. But across the planet, humans whispered her name alongside others who refused to bow. The woman from Kansas who'd killed 17 Vraxian soldiers with nothing but traps, tactics, and pure stubborn refusal to quit. The final confrontation came when Zekthor made a desperate gamble. He sent his entire remaining force to crush the Kansas resistance cell, determined to make an example that would break human morale. He succeeded only in providing Aurora with the largest target she'd ever seen. The battle raged for 6 hours across the farmland where Aurora had grown up. The humans should have been annihilated in minutes. They lasted until reinforcements arrived. Other resistance cells that had converged from across the region, unwilling to let Kansas fall. When the sun rose the next morning, Commander Zekthor's flagship was retreating into orbit and then beyond. The Vraxian Empire's first defeat in a century. The first world they couldn't conquer. Aurora sat on the porch of her destroyed farmhouse, watching the alien ships disappear into the sky. Patterson sat beside her, both of them covered in dust and blood and exhaustion. "Think they'll come back?" he asked. Aurora considered the question, thinking about every history book she'd ever read, every story of humans who'd fought impossible odds. She thought about the Oracle's warning, finally understood by their enemies. "Maybe," she said, "but they'll remember us. They'll remember that we don't know how to quit, and next time they'll think twice before waking the storm." Across the galaxy, the Oracle's prophecy was updated in Vraxian records. Next to Earth's coordinates, a simple designation appeared in their database: Forbidden World. Two-legged storm confirmed humanity had earned its reputation, not through superior technology or overwhelming force, but through something far more dangerous: the absolute refusal to accept defeat. Aurora James and millions like her had shown the universe what humans did best. They endured, they adapted, they fought, and they never ever gave up.